So, question.
Okay.
Favorite book? Go.
Oh, God. The one that I would recommend to everyone... And this is because I don't give out 5-star reviews willingly. I'm not like a lot of people who on Goodreads are just like 5-star all the time. I would have to say the one book I gave a 5-star review to was The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by John le Carré. It's one of his earliest books. It's one that got him big, that sort of shot his name up.
Is that his breakthrough?
Yeah, his breakthrough book. It was adapted into a movie that had Richard Burton in the lead role.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an excellent book. I can also say that the film adaptation is actually really faithful. They only changed like a few things about it. The basic story is you have this one intelligence officer for MI6. He's waiting at Checkpoint Charlie for a double agent of his to arrive, and he suddenly gets shot like in the middle, crossing the border into the American controlled area. So he has to go back to London and answer, what happened, and then he gets basically a proposition from his boss because the main character, Alec Leamis, he's ready to just quit, give up the whole entire spy game, like, give me my pension, I want out. And his boss is like, well, we'll let you do that, but could you do, like, this one thing for us?
One mission.
One more mission. So your whole debacle in Berlin with your spy, we actually know the guy who betrayed him. How would you feel about getting rid of him? Yeah, so he basically has to pretend to completely wash up to become, like, the ideal, like, informant for the German intelligence. Like, they're not going to use him to go back and give them more intelligence just to give them some information, like a lot of spy agencies actually do. They will look for people who have some sort of problems, like, substance abuse or domestic problems or financial problems a lot of the time, and basically pump them for information by saying, we can help you out with this. So Leamis is to pretend to be a washed-up spy, to attract these guys, to recruit him, to go over to Germany, and then basically say, yeah, he's the guy who's actually been a mole in your agency. Get rid of him. Things don't go according to plan, though, and I won't give up the rest of it. I won't spoil the rest of it, because go read this book! It is amazing! I cannot... As I said, I don't give out 5-star ratings all that often, and I did for that book.
Your opinion on the 5-star review is actually shared by me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And in my case, when it comes to, like, especially game journalism, like, they'll throw around 10s all the time.
Yeah, 9s and 10s.
And I think the big thing is there needs to be an entire restructure of the rating system as a whole.
Not just the rating system, but, like, the entire culture within the
culture around it.
Game reviewings.
That.
Because I've heard about a lot of the problems, like, not disclosing that, we get, like, free trips to Vegas to stay in these luxury hotels.
Like, it's getting better. A lot of streamers who, like, play certain games, they'll disclose, hey, I have been paid. This is a paid advertisement.
Yeah.
I'm playing this game because the company is,
paying me to do this.
And, like, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And this was a very well publicized issue, especially back in 2007 when GameSpot fired Jeff Gersman as who was their, like, senior editor. Like, he was running the reviews basically, because he gave out a bad review of Kane and Lynch, Dog Days, while the site was being advertised by Ubisoft promoting the game. And
because back in the day, the publishers would blacklist journalists for giving them bad reviews.
Well, it was more like you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to do that.
Well, this game sucks. And it's like, you can't say that. It's like, I'm a journalist. It's like, but they're paying us. It's like, do you want a paycheck? And it also was, like, added because, like, it was the first time he was ever called in to speak with, like, their board of governors.
Oh, wow.
Like, before he never had any sort of contact with them until that moment. And then there was a couple other times he was called in because of certain reviews and their scores. And it was like...
because I remember listening to an episode of Canada Land where Jesse, the host of Canada Land, was talking to a games journalist, and he was saying how bad, like, on Metacritic, how inflated the scores were. Like, for a film, it was rare to get, like, a 10 out of 10. I think at the time only 12 Years a Slave had a perfect score.
Yeah.
For the films, like, most were between, like, a good review for a film at the time was considered, like, maybe a 7 or an 8.
Yeah. Nowadays, a 7 could be considered a bad review.
Yeah, like,
which is
for
insane
video games,
to me.
yeah.
Insane to me. That's
like
crazy.
that should be just, like, the B grade. Like, you made a good film.
This is a good game that you should go out and play.
Yeah.
This is worth full price.
This is worth
retail price.
Yeah, like, point out it's not perfect, like...
Like, as you should. You should point out to its imperfections, where it does things wrong, but where it does things right.
Yeah.
And does it waste your time? No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
This game doesn't waste your time. It's a 7 out of 10 game. It's a good game.
Yeah.
And I can even say specific games I know that are 7 out of 10 games. That's like Mirror's Edge.
Like Mirror's Edge just needed a bit more work.
It needed an actual story.
Yeah.
Its story was kind of lackluster.
Yeah.
But, like, the gameplay, the environment,
like, everything was there for it to be, like,
good.
A AAA, like, we're gonna really push this
The
hard.
gunplay was not good, especially since it was coming from the Battlefield guys.
Oh,
which is
okay.
weird.
Yeah.
Which I also think was an intentional design choice.
Oh, okay.
Because they'd rather you be disarming people instead of firing and killing people. That wouldn't make much sense for Faith. And, but for a lot of companies, especially, like, Polygon, like, I recently read a review of Players Unknown Battleground by Polygon in which they give it a 10 out of 10. I was like, no. I've been playing this game for months. I've, like, through early access through 1.0 release. This game is a 5 out of 10.
Ooh.
And I think 5 out of 10 is a good score.
Yeah, like
it's average. It's the middle.
Yeah.
Because
it's not bad, but it's not...
It's not I'm not going to go up to bat and say you should pay full price for this game.
Yeah.
Because here's the things that it does right. Here's my mini review of Players. Okay, so the premise, great.
Yeah.
Great. A battle royale where you drop out of a plane. Like, it's simple. It's so simple, and it's built on a really good engine, the ARM 3 engine.
Yeah.
And... gameplay, while very janky, and it feels weird to play. It's still fun to play, and they just added parkour and stuff, so now you can, like, vault over walls and literally jump through windows, which becomes the most horrifying sound if you're in a building. All of a sudden you start hearing, like, 2 or 3 windows just crashing. It's like, you're inside. Before it would just be like a door would open, and you're like, okay, I can prepare myself. Now it's this horrifying sound of, like, crash. It's like, oh, get out of my house. The player base is fucking awful. It's why I don't put on any sort of voice chat.
I remember when you used to, when I could hear you shouting from the basement.
I don't do that anymore. The best way to enjoy online multiplayer games is by muting everyone. Yeah. Unless they're your friends.
Listeners.
Or you're playing a competitive mode.
Yeah, listeners, Ryan sleeps in the basement. I used to sleep on the 2nd floor. Yeah.
But, while gameplay being very weird, it's a big open space. It's fun to run around and stuff.
Okay.
And it's easy to hop in, hop out. There is some netcode issues, especially on the public test servers, some rubber banding.
Yeah.
Which that causes problems for literally everyone in the server. And overall optimization just needs to be better. It needs to be fixed. It needs a real overhaul at points. But just the feeling of accomplishment of defeating 99 other players is something you can't replicate.
Yeah.
You can't. That sense of, I got the chicken dinner. I'm the fucking winner. Like, that's a great feeling. And like even in if you die in like the first round, it's like, okay, I learned something. You're always progressing.
Yeah.
You're progressing in a different fashion.
Okay.
And yes, they have a loot box thing, but their loot boxes are cosmetics, which have real world money. Like you can trade them for like they have value.
But it's
that's
not
kind
important.
of illegal.
Yes. But I'm guessing it's not as important as...
No, it's not. It's do you want your character to wear sunglasses, a gas mask, and no other clothes? You can do that if you want. If you find them in loot boxes, it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine with cosmetics being in loot boxes as long as they don't have real world money value to the cosmetics.
Yeah, because I've heard...
Because that was a problem back in CSGO, in which like there would be tournaments going on and people would be gambling like weapon skins and such.
That's bad because like kids are involved in this. Yeah, and it's easy to scam kids.
And also it's illegal gambling.
Yeah,
just straight up.
Yeah, just straight up you are breaking the law.
Yeah, in which like the United States gaming administration went to Valve and was like, you need to stop that.
I'm guessing they went...
we're going to do something about that.
Yeah. Actually do something about it because people could be arrested.
Yeah, because like depending on the rarity, there was like actual real world money value to those skins. Yeah, and it's like that's bad. Like that's really bad. That's really illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to PUBG and like they're adding more content. Like really, there's only one map, so while it's a gigantic map.
It's still just one map.
It's still one map, though. Like the good things about that map, you get accustomed to the areas. You know areas like maybe you want to drop into the military base. Maybe you want to go to school.
Yeah.
And that's like 30 people fist fighting. As soon as someone finds a gun, man, it goes wild. Or you drop into cities, or just an open field, or you're away from everyone and teaming up in squads and everything. It's like you can't replicate the multiplayer experience that PUBG has right now as this battle royale thing.
Okay, but like it's
fun. But the overall problems it has, and as an early access game, like it just came out of early access and it's in its 1.0, and
so you're waiting for the 2.0 to come out.
Well, at this point, it's going to be 1.1 then 1.2, just more patches, more things coming into the game.
Okay.
More things, more fixes, better optimization. That will make the game higher up for me. But right now, I'd say it's a 5 out of 10 game. And I've mulled about how I would use the 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah.
And 5 is my average. That's where most games land for me. Is a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Like,
and I don't want people to think of that as a bad thing. Yeah. No, this is an average game. It has problems. It has strengths.
Yeah. I would say, like, a 5... Like, if you're using a 10-point scale, like, 5 would be, like, a low B.
Yeah, I'd say it's, like, a C.
Yeah, a high C, a low B.
C, yeah.
Or, just, like, a solid C. Like, you don't want to get the D grade.
You don't want to be an F.
Yeah, you don't want to be an F for sure. D is still pretty bad.
Fucking D ranks.
Yeah.
But like,
and like
most games, I'd say would land at least AAA games would land within that like 5 to 8 scale.
Yeah. So
only games that really push boundaries that really
do something really different
that really change the game. Like the Half-Lives of of the world.
Yeah.
The first Call of Duties, all those games are 9s. Those are 10s.
Yeah.
Those are games that are generational games.
I don't play video games all that often. Like, I'm mostly handheld Pokemon.
Well, you can attribute this whole system to, like, movies and every medium.
Yeah.
It just needs
refinement. I think a 10-point scale would probably do a lot better would do pretty well for books, too, because, like, Goodreads just uses a 5-star scale, and there's no real...
Which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine, but, like, it's hard to give, like... Mostly because, like, they don't have a way to actually physically give a half-star for something. Like, I would say... And I chalk this up mostly to the translation I got, which is clunky. That, I would say, In Quiet Flows the Dawn, the 1988 version, it's definitely a good book. I find that Sholikov does kind of get bored with the initial main character, Gregor, and kind of abandons him for a while to focus on other characters, and then you come back to him, and Gregor is an asshole in, like, the first half of the book. I'm like, ugh, God, he treats his wife and his girlfriend horribly. Yeah. He's a dick to his parents, though his father's kind of he kind of reminds me of Papa, where he's sometimes nice, sometimes exploding with rage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, he's a pretty good guy. Then the war actually starts, and then, you get the revolution, the Civil War. That's where you get more of the communist... Oh, yeah, the Marxist dialectics going on. Let's talk about how great the revolution's gonna be. And that's where it gets really clunky. Yeah. Like, it's starting to really sound like the propaganda's coming out. And I'm betting that Shokolov was kind of like, I gotta do this. Fine. My editors are telling me I gotta have this in here. Yeah. I work for Stalin. Yeah. Fuck my life. And really that's... Like, the last half is when Gregor actually gets interesting, because he actually gets involved with politics, and he starts really forming his own opinions about stuff, because he was kind of like the asshole guy kind of bumming around town. Like, he wasn't a Gaston or anything. He was more just like, I almost want to say kind of like the hockey players from Letterkenny.
Yeah.
But, like, kind of more dicks than they are.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like your standard just, like, small town kind of asshole who grows up and actually becomes a better person.
Yeah.
And this book, like many a Russian book, kind of ends in tragedy, but I know that there's a sequel, so...
Yeah.
We'll see what happens next in the Don Cossack country whenever I can find another book. But, yeah, if I were to give, like, the Goodreads 5-star reviews, I would have to give it a 3. It would be more of, like, either a solid 3 or a 3.5, because I did really enjoy it, but because of the translation, I can't give it that good of a score. Mm-hmm. Because, as I said, it was clunky, and if this was translated by someone else, there's been a couple of recent translations of, like, War and Peace, Anna Karenina, Dostoevsky's works, and they are really, really good. Like, especially Dostoevsky, when you're reading The Brothers Karamazov and you get to the Inquisitor scene. Ooh. That is, like... That's, like... that scene, to go on a tiny tangent, is, like, Dostoevsky lining out his entire theological arguments about religion. Because he was a devout Russian Orthodox.
Okay.
But it also, like, outlines his own personal philosophy, because he's considered one of the precursors to existentialism, along with Soren Kierkegaard, and he was actually a big inspiration for Nietzsche.
Oh.
Yeah, like, Nietzsche said that as soon as he could get his hands on, like, a German or a French or an English translation of Dostoevsky's books, he was just reading them voraciously. Okay. And you can kind of see some of Dostoevsky's personal philosophies coming out, and more of Nietzsche's earlier works. The problem with Nietzsche was more like the editing done by his sister later on, after his death. because she switched editors and she had an agenda. Yeah, that's where a lot of the problems with Nietzsche's works comes out. And also just trying to apply that sort of philosophy to a societal scale does not work. Like, for an individual person, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Basically, if that book had a better translation, I could give it a higher score. Yeah. Because, like, when I read Dangerous Liaisons, I gave that a 4 out of 5. There were some problems I had with it, but, like, the translation from 18th century French to modern English was perfect. It got everything across. It had feeling. I love that book, too. But even then, I cannot, in good consciousness, give a book unless it really somehow got me a 5-star review.
It's like me with Persona 5. I love that game to death. I can't give it 10 stars.
Yeah.
Because I do have problems with it.
Yeah. Like, you've said that you've had a few problems with some of their depictions of characters.
Yeah, there was a couple depictions I did not enjoy, especially when it came to LGBTQ.
Yeah, I heard that they have a bit of a problem with that.
That's like, more like Japan.
Yeah, Japan's weird. They're like a couple decades behind.
Yeah, and also some plot issues. It felt a little basic at points. I didn't care for the main villain at the end.
Oh, okay.
And it did feel like they rehashed the same fight again for like the third time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to replicate. You fight God at the end of the
yeah.
Like after you do it once, it
you
blows you away.
Yeah, you can't really go back.
It's hard to do it. You're going to the well again.
Yeah.
Again. And that's kind of the point of Persona 5, of Persona games, is that they go to the well a little bit.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it works. It works really well, and in a couple cases, it just doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, like, Welcome to Night Vale, I think they might, they got an arc going on, but, like, it's coming off the heels of the town of Night Vale having to basically fight for their reality. Like, the fabric of space, time, and reality was coming apart, and they had to somehow rectify that for, obvious survival reasons. And it's like, once you do that, like...
Where do you go?
Yeah, it's a whole, like, once you have fought God, where do you go from there?
You fight another one, which has been Persona's forte so far.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that's kind of why I enjoy stories that have, like, small little heroes dealing with small problems within a much larger context.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, Dunkirk really spoke to me because, it was about little heroes and little characters and their own specific problems within a way larger context, because, like, the entire evacuation of Dunkirk deserves, like, a series dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Because there was so much going on.
There was a lot.
Like, we only got 2 scenes with the French, and the French were actually really heroic. Like...
And we didn't really get any scenes of, like, British Parliament at the time. And
because
this
was Churchill's first few days as Prime Minister.
Yeah, was dealing with in
Fall of France and
was also there's a movie coming out.
Yeah, Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour.
Yeah, Gary Oldman is playing Churchill.
Oldman's playing Churchill, and I'm like, well, this is the other half of Dunkirk.
Well, the other, like, mini slice of what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you could easily do a movie just about the French rearguard, who are giving up so much
for the Brits.
Yeah. For other French forces.
For the hope that they'll come back.
Yeah.
Basically.
Because they know that they're either going to be captured or they're going to die.
Yeah.
And
that if they can escape, there's a chance that they can come back.
And the only way that these guys are gonna escape is if we can hold the line as long as possible. Like...
And there's also the logistics of the evacuation and how much the British lost.
Yeah, just show,
the amount of munitions,
equipment,
vehicles that they lost was catastrophic.
Yeah,
and it really was a saving grace when the United States and cities like Detroit and Pittsburgh
just the rest
pumped out enough stuff.
Just like the rest of the empire first came to their aid.
Yeah.
And that's one of the good things that Britain had with its empire.
They had a lifeline through the North Atlantic convoys.
Yeah, they had Canada, they had Australia, New Zealand, India, South Africa, there are so many places that helped with this war effort. It's one of those again, how could the Germans think that they could take on the British Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about it the other day. It's the British Empire had all four corners of the world.
Yeah, they had...
Pretty much.
Yeah. And even though they lost control of a few places during the war, they still had their major pieces that...
The pieces were still there.
Yeah. The truly vital ones, because Canada, we had wheat, we had all sorts of supplies, we got all sorts of resources, and, before the U.S. came along with Detroit and Chicago and Boston,
Pittsburgh,
we had Windsor, Toronto, Hamilton, Halifax, Montreal, Vancouver, Victoria, the Prairie Cities. There's also...
Kept them alive.
Australia,
in both fronts.
Yeah, Australia and New Zealand with wool, wheat, natural resources. Strongholds and meat. South Africa was a lot of other natural resources. And...
India, Burma,
manpower. South Africa also has major diamond reserves, so financial,
they're fine.
Yeah. And then of course people will bring up Operation Sea Lion that planned to invade England. Even the Nazis were no, we're gonna lose.
Yeah.
England is an island.
It's hard to invade an island.
Mm-hmm. Especially an island full of people who are willing to give up a lot just to stick up them 2 fingers. We have not had anyone successfully invade this island in nearly 1,000 years.
Not since the Romans?
Normans,
yeah.
William the Conqueror, 1066.
Yeah, okay.
The 1000th anniversary is coming up.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
49 years, yeah, but... we'll probably have William as king by then, and...
Yeah.
Which will be appropriate, because he's a direct descendant of William the Conqueror.
Aptly named.
Yeah. I wonder if they, anticipated that, too, when they named him.
Maybe.
Or they were just we haven't had a William in a long time. Let's name him William.
Yeah.
It's a good king name.
Yeah. So, I have a couple more questions for you.
What have I been watching?
I have a question for you that is, what exactly drove you to study history in university?
Oh, because it's not a complicated question, it's a hard to explain answer.
Yeah.
I've always loved history. I guess the simple reason is I like stories. I like these personal stories. I like the big history where you're looking at it sky...
Through the granular scale.
Yeah. From the big top down, you're seeing the great trends and movers and shakers of history down to this individual person's experience at this point in time. Maybe it's related to a big historical event. Maybe they were just, I don't know, a sweatshop worker in New York in the 1910s. Like, nothing big really happened in their lives, but it's a very fascinating look at what was going on through just this one person.
It's like the thing I was talking about last night about the Library of Congress's National Film Registry and saving home movies.
Yeah.
From like the early 1900s.
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of people who
one
owned
of the things saved recently this year was movies from it's a Mexican American family in I want to say El Paso, Texas. No, Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi,
Texas. And it really painted the picture of not only American and Mexican relations at the border of Texas and Mexico.
Yeah.
Because Corpus Christi is really close to the border.
Yeah.
Also, just Mexican-American life in the early 1910s.
Yeah, because that's something that hardly anyone in mainstream historical circles ever talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta fight for attention within that world. More so, I would say, within the popular history area than the real academic stuff, because there's always going to be an audience within the actual hardcore academic side of things. The problem is, popular history, the stuff that would, be sold in chapters or whatever bookstore you can get to. So there's a lot of stuff about wars and great politicians and various famous people, but you rarely see a book,
I mean, 1920s, 1930s. That's why.
But still, like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you would hardly ever see anything about like the experiences of a Mexican American family in the early 20th century in the history section for American history. You're fighting with all the biographies about Abraham Lincoln.
And it also shows like in these home movies, like it shows like holidays, parades, fashions, and the rituals of daily life for these people.
Yeah, and the daily life stuff, just like the normal everyday stuff, is just as fascinating as the big global
and also
trends.
how night and day it is.
Yeah.
The old American-Mexican border was.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot more fluid back then.
Yeah, like the border regions, like, I remember reading an article for, it was a history of women on the Canadian prairies, and there was an article about the Canadian-U.S. border, specifically in the Alberta foothill country, so bordering Montana, and just how fluid that all was back in the day. And now you look at the border, like, especially the U.S.-Mexican...
Heavily guarded.
Yeah.
There's
like, Dad's story... Yeah, there's a fence, and of course there's the whole wall thing that may or may not ever go up.
I doubt.
Yeah,
it'll cost them way too much, and there's no way anyone's
it's not like
financially build it.
It's not like you're freaking Emperor Hadrian.
Yeah.
Who's building a wall to keep the Picts out because you're scared. And they could actually do some damage.
Or you have the Chinese trying to keep the goddamn Mongols out.
Yeah, who, again, they could...
Still knocked it down.
The Mongols could do actual damage because they were pretty... The Chinese and the Russians had a hard time dealing with the steppe people into the 20th century. Yeah. But, like, well, even the Canada-US border, like, Dad's stories about, hop at the fence to get beer.
Yeah.
That's not happening nowadays.
No. That was only, like, back in the
70s. 70s, 80s, yeah.
That wasn't long ago.
No. So, yeah, I like studying the everyday. I love studying small little personal stories. I like looking at the grand scheme of things and how things change and evolve and the sort of... There's a lot of different theories about how history works. Like, you got your Marxist theory, you got your great man theory, you got, like, the general trends and all that. You got feminist ways of looking at things. You got... Yeah. And sort of like psychology with the whole eclectic sort of way of looking at things. You take a little bit from this and a little bit of that. The general mode of studying history now is you have like you study the big trends, and then once in a while you'll have, the big man who comes up or the big woman who comes up and changes everything. Dan Carlin, who runs the Hardcore History podcast, he's not an actual historian. He has a BA in he studied journalism, but his minor was history. And he's a big fan of history, but he coined this term that I really like, historical arsonists. So these are like the people who you cannot ignore, like they changed everything. So they're your Genghis Khans, your Napoleons, those sorts of people who, a century of stuff is built up and then it's basically a powder keg, they come and light it. And everything goes kablooey, and you have to start all over. Especially when you're Genghis Khan and you kill off, I think Iran was still recovering from those conquests into the 20th century,
Took some time.
Yeah, it took some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, just in general, when it comes to studying history and why I went for a BA in history, everything about it interests me. I have some eras that are personally very interesting to me. The Red River series, which I discovered at 13, was about a civilization I had never heard of, and it got me really fascinated with the Bronze Age history, and especially the Hittites, because there's not a lot of information about them outside of German academic circles. They're sort of like the leaders in Hittitology, if you want. And here's this shoujo manga about this long-lost civilization. And, yeah. So, the Bronze Age, I have a soft spot for Rome, because Rome is always fascinating. I like certain parts of, medieval history, especially early medieval history, because it's not really the Dark Ages. There was a lot of stuff that continued from the Roman era. Because there's this popular historical perception that the Dark Ages, there wasn't a lot of literacy, and it was like everyone regressed. And it's no, there was actually a lot going on. You're just lazy. Like that one history teacher you had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, 20th century history, because that shit cannot be ignored.
We advance incredibly fast.
Yeah, it was
we hit double speed. The start of the century, we just learned how to fly. By the end of the century, we have stealth fighter
By
jets
mid-century, we go to the moon.
Yeah. That's crazy.
We are launching probes into deep space.
Has any other part of history really advanced that fast?
I don't think so.
Besides,
maybe China during a few periods, but even then, that was, accidental stuff.
For, world-changing events, the 20th century is a hotbed that just goes deeper and deeper. And
then the 21st century, I think we're going
to go even faster.
Faster and further. I'm hoping to learn more.
Travel.
I'm hoping to learn more about the deep sea, because there's been more people to outer space than to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
I want there to be some sort of submarine that could go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Yeah.
I want to know what's down there. We recently discovered that giant squid are an actual thing.
Yeah.
They were washing up, but most people are oh, that's a freak of nature, or, oh, you're just making that up. No, these guys are real. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. Knock on wood, we're all gonna be here. Anyway, enough of my rambling about history. What was your next question?
Also, James Cameron's been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
2013.
Okay. I guess for further exploration.
Yeah, there's so much ocean we haven't discovered.
Yeah.
We discovered more space than ocean.
Yeah.
Other questions I have for you. Man,
because I'm a bit more like...
We've gone a while.
Yeah.
2 hours and 44 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Like the second longest podcast we've ever done. Gonna blast a couple of these off.
Okay.
Favorite movie?
God, that's again another pulling teeth there. I don't know. There's a lot of movies I like.
Maybe just name a couple off.
Spy Who Came Out for the Cold. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. God, I'm going with spy movies. Oh crap. Yeah, the Dangerous Liaison adaptation. Miyazaki stuff, just in general, especially Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind. Like that's a twist my arm and make me cry uncle sort of pick.
Yeah.
Oh. And Beauty and the Beast, because Belle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Though aesthetically, I really liked Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philip's the best.
Yeah.
Philip's in that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite anime?
As much as I love Sailor Moon, I gotta say the one that really changed my perception about a lot of things was Utena. Yeah. Like, I think Utena was the one that actually got me to... I was one of those teenagers who was like, I believe in equality, I'm not a feminist. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then Utena came along and I'm like, I have to reconsider my position on this topic.
Yeah.
Really carefully and really hard. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm a feminist.
Yeah, it was a show that changed you as a person. What were some other animes that you really enjoyed?
Sailor Moon, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that was my first anime. I was 4 when they started airing that on YTV. Anime that I really liked. Wasn't over the Princess Tutu. I actually do really like the Pokemon anime, like the first few seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But they aired Fullmetal Alchemist, both versions.
I mean, we spent like
a
quarter of this podcast
talking about Fullmetal Alchemist. My guilty pleasure would be Gundam Seed. I know it's terrible, especially Destiny, but Kigali and Athrun were the best. And, what was his name?
Who was the dude in the desert?
Oh, Andrew, what's his last name? I cannot remember his last name.
That dude was cool.
Andrew Whitfield, I think, because they right out said that he was based off Rommel.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah, and like if there was...
I don't hate Destiny because there's some good shit in Gundam Seed Destiny.
Yeah.
And Gundam Seed as well.
Yeah, like as I said...
It's just there's so much better in Gundam.
I know.
So much better.
I know, like Gundam Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolt's super good. Origin is incredible. Like the original series, even 79 it's great, and the stuff like Char's Counterattack and the War in the Pocket, which has one of the greatest I still stand by War in the Pocket has some of the best stuff I've ever seen in anime, in which the two characters who form romance between each other don't even know they're fighting on different sides of the war.
Yeah,
it's like
plot twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoilers.
Spoiler for War in the Pocket, an OVA that came out years ago.
I know, but there are people who probably have never.
Yeah.
Certain anime fans of a certain age, there's
Well, it's not exactly a plot twist because you meet both characters.
Yeah.
the surrogate character meets both characters and is friends with both characters.
Well, what I'm saying though is like you can easily
divide. It's the climax that's important.
But you can easily divide anime fans by age group. Yeah. So like you got like the older they watched all of the OVAs. Like their introduction was Akira when it first came out. Then you've got like
our. And if anyone says they understood Akira when they first watched it, they're a fucking liar. Because no one understands Akira. You have to read the manga.
And the
manga actually have to.
The manga volumes are the size of telephone books.
Like, good luck.
Yeah.
It just looked. It's a visually incredible movie for so many reasons, but the story's fucking nonsense.
Yeah. I would even say, like, you not only have to read the manga, you also have to read a lot about the manga, what the guy was trying to get across, stuff about Japanese history up to this point.
Some philosophy, too.
Some religious stuff.
There's a lot about Akira that you have to go into it and be like, okay, you're going to consume a lot of material to understand.
Here is a massive reading list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah. Because, like, my problem was I kind of fell out. Okay, my anime viewing era was, like, YTV and their, like, anime block. Because I also remember watching Case Closed, or Detective Cohen, which is basically their version of Sherlock Holmes, and that was some great shit.
Yeah. Still going on.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Yeah.
800 some episodes.
It's like One Piece.
Yeah. That and One Piece are forever.
Yeah. One Piece was... I don't know, it didn't quite hook me.
It didn't quite hook me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I watched I'd say about 30, 40 episodes of One Piece. I was like, yeah, this is neat. But I'm watching
it's
Naruto
not for me.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Naruto was on.
Yeah.
Bleach was good during that period, and then it wasn't.
As soon as you got past the Soul Society arc, then...
Yeah, it's like Kubo...
There's a video about this you can watch. It's by Super Eye Patch Wolf.
Yeah,
it's about the fall of Bleach.
Yeah.
Just go there.
Yeah.
Sums up my feelings almost exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I ended up watching Utena and a whole bunch of older shoujo stuff. I got into Escaflowne. I managed to watch some pirated versions of it.
Nice.
Yeah. Somehow.
I was watching Initial D back in the day.
Yeah.
Fucking real media player, just fucking tiny screen watching Drift movie.
Yeah, basically. And then I kind of got out of anime during high school because it was not a lot going on. I was reading a lot more manga.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And then I joined the anime club, and it was starting to open up more anime doors, and I mostly stick to like the older 90s stuff. I don't... Oh yeah, I have watched like Yuri on Ice. And there's the Ballroom anime, Welcome to Ballroom. The problem is Amazon Prime just has the one episode, or for whatever reason, I can't watch any of the other episodes on it.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching a ballroom anime forever. One of my favorite.
Talked about this, and then like on cue it was made.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Lindsay, guess what happened?
Yeah. So I really like So You Think You Can Dance. It is my favorite content. It is my favorite contest show. It is the best contest show. Those people actually know what they're doing. It wasn't like America, like.
It's not like America's Got Talent or American Idol
or American,
stuff like that.
Where they jumped the shark because you could only be like super good or absolutely awful.
Yeah, that wasn't
like. So You Think You Can Dance has room for middling talent and ability to prove yourself, and because there's so many different genres of dance, like this isn't singing where you can easily get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Though there are certain dance genres that are a lot tougher to do than others, where you do need a lot of training. Like they have tried to do ballet, and the thing about ballet is if you want to be a good ballet dancer, you have to start training at like 8 years old. Like,
it's a commitment.
It's hard, and, like, the women are on point, and if you've never been on point, it is extremely difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I've actually gotten into watching actual ballets. I wanted to be a ballerina when I was 5, like many other little girls.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've actually started to like learn a lot more about ballet in recent years and watch actual ballet productions, and I am like, holy crap, these are amazing creatures that I am watching.
So just for a second.
Yeah.
Going back to the National Film Registry, because they introduced added a bunch of stuff. Here's one that you may have already heard of, but Lives of Performers.
Oh.
Which is made by Yvonne Rainer, and it's a documentary about the lives of ballet dancers.
Okay.
Both in ballet and outside of ballet.
Yeah.
And it seems to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'll check that one out. Yeah. So Welcome to Ballroom came out, and I am mad at Amazon for not having more episodes.
Does
Crunchyroll have it?
I think Crunchyroll does have it. That's what.
Okay,
because we watched it in club.
Yeah, because I've been having some issues with my.
Actually, I think it might be Funimation.
Okay.
Funimation.com.
So I'll check that out, because I've been having some issues with my Crunchyroll account because password retrieval is dumb, and yeah. I once tried to use like some like discount code, and that's what fucked me up.
Oh god.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like the most recent anime I've watched. As I said, I'm more of a manga reader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been discovering older manga that have been getting reissued. Yeah. So, yeah, Utena will be my number 1 anime. The TV anime, the movie was weird because I think they tried to condense too many of the themes from the 32-episode anime into an hour and a half movie.
That sounds like a Herculean effort.
Yeah, that's the one where Utena turns into a car.
Yeah, I remember that review with Lindsay and Kyle.
That was J.O. Yuzu Otaku.
Oh yeah, it was Yuzu Otaku. For some reason I thought it was Lindsay Ellis. Weird.
Because it seems that Lindsay's alley, but she's not really an anime fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay, next one.
Next one?
Yeah.
Favorite TV show?
The Crown.
Oh, I'm a little surprised that you went with that one.
Why? What were you thinking?
MASH.
Yeah, MASH it's in my top 5. The Crown right now, I would say, because that's actually that's the Netflix series that I followed the longest. Like, I tried to watch House of Cards. I actually really liked the first season of that show. The second season was when I was like, oh, great. Yeah, this is kind of going to be samey, and I actually discovered I don't really like following villains. Or having the bad guy protagonist. I don't know, there's just something about it where it's almost kind of boring. Because you know that...
And in the end, they have to get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
Or else this is going to go on forever.
Yeah. And, yeah, you're just recycling plots at that point. The Crown, for those of you who don't know, I don't know how you don't know this. It's basically about the reign of Elizabeth II, our current sovereign. The only queen that we have either known.
Yep.
The only monarch we have ever known.
Yep. The only monarch our parents have ever known.
Yeah. And, our grandparents were pretty young when George VI died. That was... Yeah. He died in 52.
Yeah.
Grandma was born in 48, so...
Yeah.
That's to put this into perspective, how long she has been on the throne. So, we're talking, 4 generations now?
Yep.
That have only known her.
4 generations have lived and died under her reign.
Yeah. So, yeah, the first season is all about, like, her very early years. The theme there is, like, how do you become... you go from an ordinary person to basically a god, in a way. Like, a very untouchable... Because the nature of the monarchy, too, has changed so much. And we're talking about a constitutional monarchy and what's the place of a monarch in the 20th century, especially one who is reigning over democracies. And you're going through the process...
And one who has... One second.
Okay.
And we're live again.
Okay.
I got hit by that goddamn
3-hour mark.
3-hour limit. I need to have a goddamn
alarm
timer on me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's 2 hours and 59 seconds.
59
minutes.
Yeah.
Do something. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I love The Crown. First season was about Elizabeth's early years and a lot of crises that were going on, and Churchill, and trying to live up to her father's legacy. Second season, okay, so there was a lot of rumors about issues within the royal marriage in their early, like, first decade.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically Philip, he gets accused of being unfaithful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, given the era, the position, all that sort of stuff, it's like, they don't actually say that he had actual affairs. They never, actually show him going to meet other women. But they do show him as being something of a cad sometimes. So I would not be surprised at all if that was the actual truth. That he has not been faithful to Elizabeth. I would say more the overarching theme has been forgiveness for the second season. There was a lot of talk about forgiveness. There's a big episode that I think every year until the 70s, they're going to have an episode that focuses on the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, the former King Edward VIII, and Mrs. Simpson. Those two, yeah. And that episode was about the Marburg Papers, where, as it turns out, going back to the Nazis for this is number 5 time we go back to the Nazis. So apparently Edward at one point was talking to some Germans about, if England's conquered, can I be king again? Yeah, and there was at one point when Elizabeth was willing to forgive him, but then Philip is like, you should probably talk to Tommy Lascelles, his personal secretary from back in the day, and your personal secretary, because he actually knows what happened. And Tommy Lascelles gives her the lowdown, and boy does she rip a new one into her uncle. A very deserved new one, too. Yeah.
You fucking traitor.
Yeah. So, you're never going to be part of this family. Ever again.
Kick him out of the country.
Well, he and Wallace lived in exile in, France for basically their entire lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody
really wanted them around.
Yeah.
And
traitors.
Then there was another Philip-centered episode called Paterfamiliaris. That one made me cry. So, for whatever reason, I think out of a sense of pride, Philip decided that Charles needed to go to his old alma mater, Gordonston, which was a real rough and tumble school. And the thing about Charles is that he's a very sensitive man. He's a very empathetic man. I know people say, he's not going to be a good king. I think he'll be a fine king. But Gordonston was rough on him. You talk about
my bad times.
Yeah, he had bad times too, and he was away from his family a lot.
Yeah, and this was probably, I assume, a private school.
Pretty much. It wasn't like an Eden. As I said, it was a rough school. Philip thrived at that school because he's manly and tough and all that. Charles is not the sort of kid you send to Gordonston.
No.
So he called it Colditz and Kilts, and he just hated it there. And during this episode, there's flashbacks to when Philip was a young teenager. And his family drama, oh god, his family drama. So, he had a sister. She was Cecile. She was the Duchess of Hesse. And, so they say that the House of Hesse-Darmstadt is cursed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, longer than the Kennedy curse sort of situation. So, she, her husband, and her 2 sons, and also her mother-in-law, and she was pregnant at the time, were on a plane, and they died in a plane crash. A pretty horrible plane crash.
Damn.
Yeah, and the thing is, Cecile was Philip's favorite sister. She took him in for a while after their mother had a mental breakdown. She suffered from schizophrenia, so she had to go to a hospital in Switzerland for a while. And then when she was better, she actually ended up in Greece. Became a nun. She also, Princess Alice is kind of a badass and deserves her own episode of this future history podcast that we do. So Philip stays with Cecile for a while because his dad basically abandoned the family. The love of his mistress and gambled his money away in Monaco. Yeah, his father was an awful person.
Mm.
So he ends up in England, going to Gordonston, where he finds out that his sister died in this horrible plane crash. And oh yeah, they don't actually talk about this in the episode, but he also had a niece from the sister, Joanna. She survived the plane crash because she was like 2, and they decided not to take her on this plane ride. They were going to a wedding. And she was taken in by her aunt and uncle, and then she died the next year from meningitis.
Oh.
Yeah! When I say that the House of Hesse-Darmstadt is supposedly cursed, like, this is the same family that pumped out, oh yeah, the last Empress of Russia, Alexandra.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and her mother died from
We know what happened to them, and it wasn't a great time
Yeah.
to be a royal in Russia.
Yeah.
In the early 20th century.
And oh yeah, there's the whole hemophilia thing going
Yeah.
on.
Oh, my son, why do you suck so much? I don't know, inbreeding. If I get cut, I'll die. I sure do hope there's no revolutionary Bolsheviks outside.
Yeah. Even without that hemophilia, he was a goner.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna make it past, like, 20.
No.
Probably not.
Yeah, like, even if the revolution had happened, Alexei would not have succeeded his father at all.
Probably wouldn't have even lived
Long enough to have
Long
kids.
enough.
I think it was severe enough.
long enough to see his own father's death. Probably.
Maybe not even that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he died as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Nicholas, who was an absolute moron, should have changed the rules of succession to male-preferred primogeniture so that his older daughter, Olga, could become Tsarina. In case, Alexei died early and, he didn't want to have to go through the whole process of which cousin is, like, a direct male descendant of whoever and hasn't had a morganic marriage. Because that also kicked you out of the line of succession.
Yeah.
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 So, anyway.
Russia.
Poor Philip. Yeah, so that entire episode made me cry. And I know that they're gonna get to the Diana years. And when they get to Diana's funeral, there was a bit of a... Okay. So, during the actual funeral procession, you see, like, Charles, William, Harry, Philip, and I think a few other male members of the family walk behind the gun carriage with their coffin. And Harry, being upset because his mom just died, and he was, like, what? 11 at the time? 11, 12? Yeah, he was bawling his eyes out saying, I can't do this. And Philip came up to him and is like, if I walk beside you, will you do it? And that gave him enough courage to walk behind him. And I'm visualizing this scene for The Crown where Philip is having flashbacks to his sister's funeral when he nearly broke down.
Oh. Oh, shit. Oh, that hurts. That strikes a chord.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
I'm crying thinking about this.
God.
It hits you in the feels. I have us both crying.
Jesus Christ. That's fucking brutal.
Yeah. See why I love this show?
I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So watch The Crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might pick that up.
Yeah.
Any other shows you want to make note of quickly?
There's a show on Amazon Prime called Comrade Detective. So, it's got Channing Tatum in it.
Yep.
The basic premise is that this is a buddy cop series set in Romania in the 1980s. Now, what they did is that they got, the entire thing is to be like a pistache of like this found, like, old 80s Romanian show that's like clearly communist propaganda from the Ceausescus. So they actually have like a Romanian actors doing like the actual acting stuff, and then they have like Channing Tatum and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and a whole bunch of other actors dubbing over them.
Oh my god, that sounds like the best thing ever.
I know, and like every few minutes they're spouting some sort of communist propaganda.
Redacted.
The American ambassador is just like the most over the top stereotype of Reagan era capitalism.
Of like that he grew up in the McCarthyism.
Yeah, greed is good and just rolling in the dough.
I lived through the Red Scare.
Well, not even that. She's like, she dies from poisoned money. In the second episode.
What?
It's on Amazon Prime. It is amazing.
That's wacky. I like that.
Yeah. Other than that, I've been watching documentaries. For whatever reason, Netflix has like old Fred Karpa propaganda documentaries from World War II.
Weird.
Yeah, including one that's about like the Russians fighting the Germans, and like looking at it from, you know, the current perspective, knowing all of the bad shit that happened and just how awful a fight that was, and you know, Stalin is a complete monster.
Just keep throwing people at the problem and it will go away.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting to see these old propaganda documentaries. I've watched a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them are pretty cringy, like the one about Japan and why they're bad. Like
bad Japan, bad.
Yeah. No.
I turned into an actual monster.
To be fair, Japan was no saint.
Oh no. There's fucked up shit they were doing.
Mm-hmm. But the Americans were no saints.
Holy, definitely not.
No.
No.
Look, the Pacific...
No one is a saint in war.
Yeah.
There are only sinners.
Yeah. And, like, if you're going to compare fronts, the Pacific and the Eastern Front are kind of the closest to each other.
They're fucking brutal when you look at them.
Yeah.
Like, we've both seen the Pacific.
Yeah, that is a hard series.
They're fucking just brutal.
Yeah. It's like the complete opposite of Band of Brothers. Like.
Yeah, and there's a lot of racism towards the Japanese, but like, it almost felt justified because of the amount of fucking shit they had to go through.
The Japanese gave them no quarter.
Absolute, like, take no prisoners mentality, die for the emperor.
Yeah.
And
like, we're not trying to justify the attitude.
No.
But it's understandable the mentalities of both sides.
Well, at this point, we can't let any of their soldiers live.
Yeah.
there was a take no prisoners policy at a point.
Yeah.
For the Marine Corps, at least, I think it was different for the Army and everyone else.
Yeah.
But for the Marine Corps, they had gone through so many cases of, oh, there's a wounded soldier, our corpsman's gonna help him, and grenade goes off.
Yeah.
Guy was a suicide bomber. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like, for anyone who wants to get into the HBO War series, The Pacific is the toughest one to watch.
It's hard.
You know what? Actually, maybe not. I would say Generation Kill, given
the
recent events in Iraq.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot tougher now to watch than what it was back when we first watched it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still great.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to get into the war series.
Yeah.
Is through Generation Kill because it's a more recent conflict for
more
us.
Recent. Yeah, and Band of Brothers, it's really good, but you can tell that it comes from a bit more of an innocent time.
It came from...
it's also set in Europe, Western Europe, which was a lot more gentlemanly, really. In quotation marks.
Big quotation marks, but yeah.
The two opposing sides saw themselves more as equals until they actually get into Germany
and see what the fuck's been happening.
Yeah, the warped nature.
And then they find out, oh, there's been even worse shit going on in
Yeah.
the Eastern countries.
Yeah.
It's like...
Which is why I still want to see something on the Eastern Front, just
just to bridge the gap.
Yeah, a perspective, because, we in the West do not really get what it was like in the East. We get how brutal it was. I don't think it's really sunk in.
Just the amount of brutality.
The absolute
and the
hatred.
Of hatred of these two opposing forces will do everything and anything and everything in their power to kill each other.
I think, too, we don't grasp really the history between these two countries, because this has been going on forever.
Because the Russians and the Anglo-Saxons, they've been going back for a long time.
Napoleon really started it, because the Russians had imperial ambitions, but it was sort of as long as they are not playing in our backyard for the Brits, we're kind of okay with what they're doing. We're not going to really say anything until they break into the Baltic and they're getting kind of close on, Denmark and all that sort of stuff. Britain was really never invested in the continent until the Hanoverians took over.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they have Hanover to think about. And that's when they sort of became more involved in European continental politics. But, Russia, it took a long time for Russia to get involved, push into Western Europe to start really messing things about. It was really only during the 7 Years' War, because they sided with the Austrians and the French, and the UK had sided with the Prussians in Europe. You have to remember, the 7 Years' War was a global war. You should really start counting the world wars from the 7 Years' War as World War I. Then the Napoleonic Wars is World War II. So World War III was actually the First World War. And then World War IV was the Second World War. Yeah.
And really, we're kind of in almost a Fifth World War with this war on terror and all that.
Yeah.
It's barely even a war. It's just...
the state of things.
Yeah.
So, anyway...
the fact that wars become the status quo is kind of frightening.
Yeah, in a weird way, war, or at least some level of conflict throughout human civilization, the history of the human species.
Humanity's never known life without war.
Yeah.
We've been at war since we were single-celled life forms.
Yeah. So, don't kid yourself, we are a violent species. Given the right circumstances, I bet the most, pacifistic SJW on Tumblr could rip someone's throat out with their bare teeth.
Yeah, probably. No wonder aliens haven't come by. They're looking at this shit these fucking people can't keep it together.
The Space Orcs post is right.
It's damn.
Damn, son. So anyway, yeah. Just the history between them. well, specifically Prussia and Russia. So Prussia is like old North Germany, like northeastern Germany into Poland. And there are long-standing issues with each other. Going back to the Teutonic Knights in the 1200s when they tried to invade Novgorod. And
now the Prussians, they were around the time of the Second World War when Europe realized, yeah, we can't actually let you people keep on keeping on.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even though the guy who put the Prussians on the map was actually a big old Francophile, his name was Frederick the Great.
Yeah.
Apparently by the time he died, he had a thick French accent. Yeah. He was one of those great German leaders who hated being German.
Yeah. But,
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, there's no more Prussia. It's now Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. Mecklenburg. Close to Pomerania, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, just, I want... It doesn't even have to be the Spielberg-Hanks team to do that.
The Playtone.
Yeah, the Playtone group, yeah.
Yeah. Just...
Like, it would be great.
It would be. Like, I still hear rumblings that they're working on, I think it's either an 8-part or 10-part miniseries on the 8th Air Force.
Okay.
So that would mostly be focusing on, like, fighter groups and bomber groups.
In Europe.
But that's something I haven't really seen covered a whole lot, is those bombing missions.
Yeah.
Cause
I think that's more of a British thing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely a British thing, but when the Americans were involved, you had the Mighty Eighth.
Yeah, you had the Mighty Eighth.
And all sorts of just air forces, and it was just constant bombing.
Yeah, because, like, when I think about World War II from the air, you know, you think of the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. Also think of the many conflicts in the Pacific, because that was heavily won by the air, because
aircraft
carriers were the most important thing. That was another thing that changed the face of war.
Yeah, that was
no longer a need for giant battleships with giant cannons.
The sinking of the Bismarck was the death knell for...
Well, and the sinking of the Yamato.
I would actually put it earlier with the Battle of Jutland, where it, like, the whole dreadnought thing really put into perspective, like, how outmoded this idea was.
Mm-hmm. Because while the effectiveness of ships like Bismarck and
Prince
Eugen and Yamato and Musashi, stuff like that, extremely effective with some of the most advanced armament ever seen. And even on the Allied side, the Iowa class of battleships.
The Prince of Wales and the Hood.
Prince of Wales and Hood was a heavy cruiser.
Yeah, heavy cruiser, but
still, it's got power.
Yeah.
But when Pearl Harbor happened, like, the aircraft carriers were on patrol.
Yeah.
They were out of Pearl, so when the Japanese struck Pearl Harbor, they took out mostly their battleships.
Yeah.
Like, Battleship Row was almost annihilated.
Yeah.
Arizona, one of their America's largest ships at the time, was cut in half. Which also showed the effectiveness of
air power
against
surface
sea, and surface ground forces. And
next time, just put a pause. You need to talk to Dad about this.
Yes, I should. And just in the end, like, an effective attack of really shaking America to its core.
Yeah, which got America
it also shook the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And that how important aircraft carriers were in the following battles.
The future.
Midway was a turning point.
Yeah.
Same with the Battle of the Coral Sea and the Solomon Islands and
then over in the Atlantic, like the effectiveness of convoys, like and the power of the smaller ships,
and especially submarines.
And and the smaller ships and the Hunt for the Bismarck really pointed out how weak those battle cruisers were.
Yeah.
Or those battleships were, because once you take them out,
Bismarck was sunk by biplanes.
Yeah. Like,
old swordfishes.
Yeah, old swordfishes from freaking World War One.
Just torpedo planes can destroy, and the British discovered how effective this was in the Battle of Orano or Ortona.
Oh yeah, because they took out the
Italian port city.
Yeah, and also the bombing of it was a French port right after Dunkirk. Where they took out most of the French fleet because they didn't want it to fall into German hands.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of French felt betrayed about, but...
But in the end, it was probably for the best.
Yeah.
You don't want all that stuff falling into
they weren't able to rescue those capital ships.
We can't recover your ships, so we have to destroy them so the enemy doesn't get them.
Yeah, it's the classic burning the ships to make sure...
It's burning the crops as you move.
Yeah. It's the naval version of... It's the naval version of Scorched Earth.
Yeah. Scorched
Sea, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So World War II is just like this big turning point for everything. There was a massive pivot in society and culture and military and politics because right after Cold War.
Yeah. Blue ball for 40 years.
I remember that monologue.
That was a good monologue.
That was your best monologue.
It was.
Yeah. It was. Because you also got like the lights and the music.
I had Mars.
Yeah,
Mars
Bringer of
the Planets. Yeah, that was a good monologue.
Gustav Holst made a great series, even though he ended up hating it.
Yeah. Well,
he deliberately didn't do one for Pluto after it was discovered.
Yeah, well, he thought his artwork was better.
Yeah.
Like, why do you guys keep playing on that shit? The planets, fuck that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is great though.
Yeah. And like everybody has their favorite bits from it. Like, I'm more partial to Neptune and...
Yeah.
So...
Movies, we were asking.
TV shows.
TV shows, yeah.
Other stuff.
Besides, like, The Crown and...
Comrade Detective, bunch of old documentaries. Yeah, I've actually been watching a lot more YouTube stuff. Yeah, so you've probably heard me rave about the Great War series. Watch the Great War series.
Yeah. It's
never too late to catch up. Their project's going to end soon. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do once, November 11th, 2018 passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, the Great War series is hosted by Indy Nidell, and they basically do World War I week to week. And they're covering all the different events that are going on all over the world. They have specials about specific fronts, specific countries, specific people, various topics within. There's one episode about the development of tanks. Another about what Guam was doing during World War I. There was actually some interesting things going down there. I'm still waiting for an episode about Chile because there was some German naval action along the Chilean coast. There was this big chase of, I think it was a U-boat by the Brits. The Brits have an interesting relationship with Chile and Argentina, so there was a bit about that too. They talked about Brazil, they've talked about Mexico, because Mexico wasn't actually directly involved in the war, but it was the whole Zimmerman telegram where the German foreign minister is like, hey, Mexico will pay you a whole bunch of money and give you trainers and equipment and all that if you attack the U.S. and open up another front for us to keep the U.S. occupied while we're fighting England and France. And they're like, no.
That's not a good
no
idea.
Mas.
We can't win that.
We're already fighting a civil war.
We can't stop fighting ourselves to fight the U.S.
And the U.S. regularly kicks our butt.
Yeah. Took our land.
Yeah. They've been on a losing streak for a long time.
A little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, Mexico.
Yeah. They'll get better.
Yeah.
You know it.
Eventually. So there's an episode just about Sir Arthur Curry. Yeah. He had an interesting life.
He did.
Yeah. He was in real estate. He wasn't that good. He was no Joyce Turney.
No. Just a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Favorite cartoon? I know you enjoyed yourself a cartoon or two.
Yeah. Original Teen Titans cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I am waiting for something to show up on Netflix for it, or some good DVD release. Like, everything about it was perfect. Right amount of humor, right amount of seriousness. They had Ron Perlman voice Slade. Like, perfect casting.
Yeah.
And also the best iterations of those characters. And the best costumes for them.
Yeah.
I don't like comic book version of Starfire's costumes. They're just...
It's not great.
No.
I don't like it.
Everything about it is wrong. Like... yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, favorite cartoon? Teen Titans.
Yeah. We'll make this the final question for you.
Okay.
What's your plans for the future?
Finally become an archivist. Preferably with a government department.
Out in Ottawa?
Out in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Ottawa's kind of becoming my city. It's got the history. It's got the culture. I'm near Quebec, so cheap beer. Yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
That puts us at 3 hours and 31 minutes. We can talk a lot.
Yeah.
And I know we have so much more to talk about, but it's 1 a.m. and I work in 9 hours.
I like how you look at your wrist even though there's no watch.
That's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll have to hit the road at about 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to visit Dad and...
It's fine. I plan to edit anyways.
Yeah, I went very long.
Nah, this is exactly what I want out of this show. Is I want us to riff and go on tangents
ramble
and talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck. We got a lot. Got a lot.
Yeah. So much. I'll need a bag for all my stuff. I gotta take that to Dad.
Yeah.
He's the one with the truck. He can take it all back to Ottawa. He wants to go back early because there's a Christmas party happening.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
No.
That's what I heard.
I don't know if it's because there's a chick there or if it's friends or...
Who knows?
Who knows?
But, yeah, that does it for us.
Okay.
It's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
I really like this.
I'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah.
And we'll start hammering out that history podcast that I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Alright.
thank you for coming on. Yeah.
That was a lame.
That was bad. That was a bad.
Want to do it again?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. There we go. There we go. We did it.
Outro.
We beat the podcast. Thank you for listening. You can catch us sometime. You can catch Lindsay sometime once we hammer out some details. Get some stuff going. And maybe next time I go to Ottawa, we'll do another one of these. Or we'll do here.
Yeah.
Do another one. Or we'll just do one over Discord.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Yeah.
Alright, this is Ryan, that's Lindsay, we're signing out.